I look like a fool. Well, let's talk about Dead Space. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is, of course, Tomthechosen1, and I hope you're all having a great evening. This is the first iteration of a new kind of video series that we're going to be talking about that's called Impressions. And Impressions, it's basically me talking more off the cuff and less, scripted sort of stuff. That way it can get to you, the audience, some new videos that are for newer games. And in this case today, we're going to be taking a look at Dead Space. One little goofy thing before we start, though, is that in every little new thing, I want to have a new beer or some other drink in my hand. And so today we got Franziskaner Weissbier, and we're having their premium Weissbier. Got this at the Coop, so they're pretty good. So before we start, this video is going to be way more unscripted, just like I said, and so do not don't take it to the same quality of level as my normal videos, and on top of that, it is not going to replace those videos, so don't worry about it, fellas. If you're really like that content and you're looking forward to that, there will be some of that, but this is just to let's just say fill out the year a little bit more instead of having, I don't know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, but really 3 videos a whole year. That's not a lot. So let's just keep going and let's talk about Dead Space. Dead Space 2023 is, of course, the remake for 2008's Dead Space. This one developed by Motive Studios, which is sort of a support studio that got turned into a full studio at EA. And the previous game was, of course, Dead Space, developed all the way back in 2008 by Visceral Games, which makes me sad to say because that was a good studio and EA kind of killed them all. Dead Space was kind of a nice, neat little revolutionary thing when it came out. It had incredible visuals for the time that it came out. It was a fun game, and it's set into the not-so-distant future. You play one Isaac Clarke, who's a systems engineer for ships with this company called the Concordance Extraction Corporation. And what they do is that they have big, giant ships that's called planet crackers. And these planet crackers basically grab big tectonic parts of a planet, crack them up, and take all the precious little resources in them to find. And so this one brings us to one planet cracker known as the USG Ishimura. And in the Ishimura, you come in and it's just a normal, let's say, routine checkup. Difference is that Isaac's girlfriend, Nicole, is a doctor on board the ship and gave a mysterious order to say, Isaac, I need your help as soon as you can. This is bad news. Bad stuff's going on the ship. I want to let you know. So, of course, as with any horror show, you gotta get into it. So we get to the Ishimura and things are very, very nasty. But before we go forward with more of the narrative and the gameplay of Dead Space, the thing to me with Dead Space is that the 2008 game holds up so well to this day that going into it, I had kind of how could you say, I was really hung up on it. I didn't really want to play it because it's like, wow, come on, man. The 2008 version is still great today. It still plays fantastically. It hasn't really aged that poorly. And so, of course, because, well, it's a new game to play this year, I went and gave it a try. And you know what? Sometimes it's good to be wrong. So let's talk about Dead Space. So when you board the Ishimura and you end up figuring out that everything has gone to crap, you end up figuring out that, of course, that there's these monsters called necromorphs, which are like these reanimated zombie mutant things with like big giant blades on them that basically want to rip you into pieces. And they do a pretty good job of doing that if any of the crew that you find is to be a testament to that. From there, it kind of leads us to how the gameplay of Dead Space works, and it's really neat. Because Isaac isn't a soldier, he's not an expert at this, he's just an engineer. The tools at your disposal as a player are tools that Isaac would use in everyday life. So the first weapon that you get is a plasma cutter, which, as it says, it cuts things, and it's kind of neat because you can, instead of different firing modes, it changes between horizontal or vertical. And so this really comes into effect because you're fighting against the necromorphs, and you don't just shoot them in the head like a normal zombie. Sometimes that might even just be worse for you. So what you gotta do is that you gotta systematically chop their limbs off. So you shoot one of the limbs, you shoot like their arm, you shoot their legs, so they get too close to you, so you can go, hey, stay away, I don't want to deal with you. Or, of course, you can deal with them by shooting their legs, shooting their arms, and then stomping them to death. Isaac also has 2 different types of modules in his rig, which is basically his suit. Then it's got this cool, like, spinal sort of column indicator for how much health he has, and the whole game is wonderfully diegetic, but we'll get to that in the presentation. But there's 2 modules. There's the stasis module and the telekinesis module. So the stasis module, it's, as it says, it basically holds things in place. So in universe, it's basically like this fan is disconnected and it's spinning out of control and we can't stop it. And you'd stop it using stasis, and then you'd work on it. And then telekinesis is just what you think. It's basically grabbing objects or pulling objects with a telekinetic force and then putting them somewhere else. This plays into combat because it's basically another tool in your belt that you could use to fight against the necromorphs. So a great example is that if you chop one of the arms off, these arms are super sharp, you could use telekinesis and grab that arm and shoot it right back at them. So it's kind of this ironic, like, you thought you were gonna get me with that? And then as well, stasis is there for a sort of crowd control, like you're getting swamped, there's too many of them, well, I'm gonna put one in stasis and I'll deal with these other ones. And like I've said in Signalis and a few other videos that I do with survival horror, is that it gives you a dilemma. You get into a room and there's a puzzle. Every room's a little puzzle, and you got to figure out how to deal with the necromorphs in it. Are you going to, use your plasma cutter to chop this guy's legs off and then run over here and use the assault rifle or pulse rifle to shoot this other guy? And it's like, oh, you're getting low. Well, do I reload and take that risk, or do I bring out the line gun and just blast them all, or use my favorite, the contact laser, and just melt them? I will say one thing is that this game, well, I'm sorry to say, fellas, it's not scary. And Dead Space 2008 wasn't scary to me either. And to go on this tangent, that's not because the game is particularly bad or anything like that. It's, how could you say? I've just kind of been desensitized to it. I've seen so many horror movies, I've played with so many horror games that I'm just kind of used to it all by now. So it just doesn't spook me as much, but that doesn't mean that the game isn't fun to play through. On top of that, the game has a bunch of puzzles that are all very interesting and neat because they have to do with what Isaac is good at, and it's fixing up the ship. So it's like you have one puzzle where you gotta restart the engine, and you have like this spinning sort of clutch with gears to start the engine. You gotta put stasis on the clutch to stop the clutch, and then you gotta use telekinesis to drag this like 15,000 ton clutch into this engine so it can jump start it again. Little things like that that are really interesting and fun, not just because it's just a like normal puzzle, but because it's a diegetic one. I really love the puzzles in Silent Hill or in Resident Evil, but sometimes I feel that they could be a little almost absurd, a little goofy, because it's like, oh, you go here and in this police station, it's I don't know, a key in a statue, and you find these things and you unlock the secret chamber. And I understand in context it makes way more sense, but there's a part of me, and I don't know if it's just because I'm more technically minded, that it's interesting to see these puzzles be very sort of diegetic and they're solving, where it's like, how do you fix an engine? Well, you fix an engine like you would fix an engine in this universe. You do what you gotta do to it. It's not like, well, I'm gonna do this esoteric thing so I can go and put this thing here, and then I'm gonna sprinkle salt on top and it's gonna cause a nuclear reaction, and then in that case, there's no what would be called in adventure gaming moon puzzle logic, where you have no idea how to progress. And the thing is, though, that I have to recognize, and I think a lot of people have to recognize too, is that all this stuff is in the original game as well. How the weapons function, apart from a few changes, how the puzzles work and all that. that's still there. And that's what makes this game so great. To get into, I guess, more of a narrative sense, this time around, Isaac Clarke is voice acted, and he has his helmet removed through different parts of the game. And it's voiced by, I apologize, the voice actor is Gunnar something. I want to say Gunnar Thompson, but I might be completely wrong in that regard. In the original game, Isaac was silent through most of it. And it's nice to have Isaac speak through these things because it changes the dynamic of the other characters in this game. Before, it was like people were telling you what to do. Isaac just goes, oh, okay, I'll just go and fix it. To change that now, where Isaac, he puts his input in. He puts in, like, I'm an expert at this. I know what I'm doing. A lot of the solutions he had in the game that would have been somebody else would have told you, well, maybe if you do this incredibly dangerous thing, comes off a lot more selfish in that game. While in this game, it's Isaac going, well, this is the only way to fix it. So I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go out into 0G and realign it or do something like that. There's also a few other narrative things that I really enjoyed in this game, is that they've changed from the original, is that they've really expanded Nicole and Isaac's sort of relationship. In the previous game, it was more of a like, well, you want to go save her because Nicole, she looks pretty. She looks pretty in the vid call. So you want to go and save her. This time around, it's like, you know, they talk about their relationship. They talk about how Isaac's parents and how her mother was part of Unitology. Without spoiling it, this church takes a huge influence in the game because different parts of the crew are part of this church, and this church has this ulterior motive, and it's kind of like an XP to Scientology, where it's really abusive to the people in it, and the only way to advance is by spending ungodly amounts of money in it. So it's really neat, and that stuff has been expanded in this remake, where you see more of the crew before they died and how all the relationships are. For example, the captain is a Unitologist, so what decisions he made before everything hit the fan influences that. Maybe he would have done this way if he wasn't that way, and so on. And it's really interesting to see all of that put together. I guess before we head on to presentation, there's also a new alternative ending that I was told like really changes in Retcons 3, but I guess I haven't played those games in a while, so I don't really remember. But if I recall, this new alternate ending that's pretty cool and it's kind of messed up leads perfectly into Dead Space 2 in my opinion. So I'm curious to see how they'll change the trilogy going on if they end up doing it. And so from there, we're going to talk about the visuals of Dead Space. And what I like about this is that they took the visuals and the design aesthetic from the first game and just gave them a complete overhaul in the Frostbite 2 engine. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to be honest that horror is one of those genres that I look to specifically for advancements in graphical fidelity, because they usually have to play a lot with particle effects and lighting and things like that. And believe me, this remake does that very, very well. There's lots of times where you'll go down a corridor and it's just lit up by a warning strobe light that's going above your head, and that's like your entire illumination during these sequences where the necromorphs are coming in. And it looks really great when you just catch a glimpse of them and you don't know where they are, and it's great like that. Or other sections where it's just completely dark and the only light is the light that you have on your gun. So you're looking around and it's just this encroaching darkness. That's wonderful. I really love that in games. Another thing too that I really enjoyed is the particle effects in this game. There's this part in this game where like you deal with enemies that produce a lot of gas, and so much gas that it actually chokes up the place, where you're running on your oxygen supply in your suit. And usually in games, like, gas is sort of hard to do. Is it either like a particle effect where it just looks like a texture? This is like one of the few games where this gas looks like a gas. It looks like you sit there and it's like, you know, this thing walking through it, I feel like this suit would have trouble just filtering this in. I feel like the suit would have to use its own oxygen supply not to get poisoned. So that's a really plus, and I really enjoyed that with this game. Like, graphical fidelity, mwah, chef's kiss, just beautiful. Now, between specific differences between this game and the original game when it comes to presentation, and the thing is that, like, I don't really know. I'd have to, like, I'm pretty sure there's differences. I'm sure there's differences in different little aesthetic things here and there, but I didn't really notice them that bad. But to be honest, I also wasn't really looking that hard. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a CorobCat video where, oh, this thing was made in MS Paint or something like that. But as far as I can tell, like, I didn't really see that much of a difference. And honestly, the important element of the game, which is the rest of the Ishimura and the lighting and the necromorphs, that all turned out pretty well. So I can't really comment on that. And so, kind of to wrap up my impressions here, what I gotta say about the Dead Space remake is that it looks gorgeous, it plays just like it did in 2008, except just a little bit better, and it is just an exquisite, wonderful product right out of the gate. And that is one thing that I really enjoyed with this game, and it's the fact that this game, you played it day one, got the day one patch, and it just runs. It runs decently. There's no glitches, there's no bugs, there's no stutter, no nothing. And I'm looking at you, Callisto Protocol. It just runs. And in this climate, it is so refreshing just to have a game that freaking works at the beginning. And for this game too, I was kind of a little bit cruel with it because it's like, I don't want a Dead Space remake, man. The original game's so good. Like, does this really need a remake? And that, and after having played through it and really enjoying it, I'm gonna cope and seethe by saying, you know what? Even microwave leftovers can be pretty damn good sometimes. And that's really why this game works so well. It's because the base product that it came out 15 years ago is that good. It still holds up, and that's kind of my big argument with the game. Now, for a question you're probably wondering, which is better, Callisto Protocol or Dead Space? And I'm just going to be real with you folks. Like, of course it's going to be Dead Space. And that is, of course, because I keep saying it over and over again, is that the original product was that good. They have such a good template to work off that of course it's going to be good, and it's going to be a better product. Which one would I recommend playing? Well, of course I'd probably recommend Dead Space over Callisto. I'd still recommend Callisto for its own variant reasons. One of the big reasons, of course, is the melee system that is not found in Dead Space that I really wish was in there. I really do like that visceral melee combat of you beating them to death. Crazy stuff. And I really do kind of miss that in this Dead Space game. Since we're kind of here at the end of our first impressions video, I've been wondering to myself, do I give it a score like a normal video, or do I give it something else? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you whether I recommend it or not, because this is, of course, an impressions video. And to rate it between 1 and 10, like I do with all my other reviews, I don't think it's fair, because I haven't personally done the best research I can to write something and formulate it into a product that you can enjoy. So in this case, I'm going to say with Dead Space that, yeah, I do recommend playing through it. You can get this game for $80, and I'm going to be real with you. I don't really think you should get it for $80 or $90. I'm not sure what it is these days. Regardless, if you want to play this game, I don't know about consoles, so forgive me there. But if you're on PC, you can use EA Play Pro, which is what I did. Pay $20 for a subscription that will last you a month, and that's what I did. I paid $20, and I ran through the game, and then after I'm done the game, I canceled my subscription, and then the next time a game comes around, which will probably be that Star Wars Jedi Survivor, then I'll pop it in again, play it through, and then probably cancel my subscription again. Because clearly, if you want to play this game, what's a better price, $80 or $20? If 20 bucks is still too much, what I would recommend that you do is you actually just do the normal EA Play, which is $5 a month, and that'll give you access to all their old stuff. Or if you have Xbox Game Pass, it is included with your Game Pass subscription. So with that, what can you do? Well, you can just go and play the original Dead Space. And while it won't have all the new bells and whistles that a new and improved with visual fidelity of a next-gen console has, the old game, plot beat, bullet per bullet, every point that was great about this game that I loved, you could find in that game. So in that case, if you only got $5 to spend, go play the original Dead Space, and you're going to have just as much of a great time. And so with that, fellas, we've come to the end of the first impressions video. I hope you really enjoyed it. This is a very different thing for me. I really want to I want to bring more content to you guys, to get real with you. I've been noticing that, you know, it's like you look at other pages and they've been running for 5 years, and it's like, how many videos have they put out in 5 years? Tons and tons and tons and tons. And how many do I put out every year? Like 3, 2 sometimes. So I think it's time to stop this nonsense with this hiatus and just try new solutions, even if they might not work the first time. Such as this one. I don't really know, you know, I might put this in editing and it might be terrible. Which future Tom will go, actually, it turned out so well. But in any case, for you, the audience out there, my fans, or even new people that have joined here, for the new people, I apologize. This is not my normal content. But if you really enjoyed this, then go on to my channel and check the rest of my videos and check my actual reviews, and you might really enjoy that. So, I really go check them out. I think you might enjoy it quite a bit. And if you enjoy those videos as well, maybe come and subscribe. That'd be very cool. But for everybody else that's been watching so far, I want to know, you know, what do you think? What do you think about this new format? You know, is there anything that you'd want to change? Is there anything that could use changing? Is it awful? Is it no good? Like, don't worry. I can take the pain. Don't worry about it. This is, it's a new thing that I want to try out. And this is a format that will only be for newer games that don't deserve their own big fat video. So don't worry, the normal big reviews, they're still going to come out, and I'm in the process of writing one. That being said, the big reviews might come out once every other month, but we'll have at least 2 of these smaller videos with it. It's kind of what my plan. Plus the Tomcast, which if you're into podcasts and you like my content, go and give that a listen. It is joined with my 2 friends, Andrew and Mike, also known as Beaver PI, who streams his own stuff, and I'll have his streaming stuff down below. But we're good friends, and we did this thing where we just chatted for a good 3 hours, so we're going to try and do that every 2 to 3 weeks, and since a lot of people enjoyed it, I'm going to keep doing that. So check that out if you haven't checked that out, and if you really enjoyed it, yeah, just give me a shout, let me know what you think. But anyway, this is Tomthechosen1 doing an illegal planet-cracking operation off the coast of Corsica. And my oh my, I have gotten myself into an international incident. So, with that, I'll see you guys next time.